It is time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Hello everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. We got a great, exciting show coming your way here this afternoon, already episode 26, and we're going to sit down with four-time NFR qualifier Jesse Brown, chasing another NFR this year. Tracy's towards the back end of the top 15, not a place he's super familiar with in the last couple of years anyways, but he's still got a golden opportunity to get back to Las Vegas.
Yeah, just got to stay in the mix. There's so many key rodeos down the stretch with Puyallup and the Cinch Playoffs and Sioux Falls, and he's just got to – his horsepower has to line up. He came off of – he's coming off some big wins recently, doing well, and hopefully he keeps that momentum going.
And do you think he can is a
big
thing?
Yeah,
because,
I mean –
it also often comes down to horsepower.
Well, he's ridden Tyson for so long, and
we'll have to ask him.
We'll have to ask him that. If he's riding Tyson, yeah, I 100% think he can, depending on how things shake out for him. He's just had some bad luck here and there, but he's so athletic and so strong. He finished third in the world last year. I think, assuming he doesn't get banged up or something, I think he could get in the 15 for sure.
Yeah, we're going to sit down and talk with Jesse. That'll be towards the back end of the show, so make sure you stick with us. But as we always do, we'll kick things off with our Pro Rodeo props, and this is a pretty familiar guy to us, Tracy. We just had him on the Chute Bosses as our featured interview guest, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Yeah. That's Resistol rookie Wasey Shaw. I don't know if you can find a guy, maybe there's a couple out there, maybe Brody Crest, but a guy that's as hot as Wasey Shaw is right now. Get this. Since August started in bareback riding and bull riding, $48,271 for Wasey Shaw, and now he looks like he's closing in on the top 10 for bull riding to make the NFR.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he doesn't make the NFR in bull riding because he's got so much momentum. He won the Lee County Expos, the Lee County Rodeo. He's placing everywhere. I mean, he's gone on this. He probably figured he could go on this heater at some point, and he did it at the right time, right in August, rolling into September. Bareback would be a stretch for him to get there.
26 as of right now.
If he could get into the playoffs, I mean, I keep bringing that up, but there's so much money at Puyallup and at Sioux Falls. I mean, guys were winning almost $30,000 last year at Sioux Falls on the last day of the season, essentially. So I don't know if he can get in both, but if he gets in bull riding, he's got a chance for the all-around because he's won a lot of money in bareback, even though if he doesn't make the NFR.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that, he's maybe going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to bareback because he says his focus, is solely in bull riding. But he gets to the NFR. It's anybody's game. If you can get to the NFR and you're qualified for the all-around, you got a shot to win the title.
Right.
Because you could win so much money.
Yeah, there's so much money. The ground money doesn't count for bull riders, which will take some away for him in the all-around standings. But there's still so much money. I mean, the average pays $88,000. The rounds pay, $33,000. I mean, $12.5 million goes to the contestants this year at the NFR. I mean, you win 2 or 3 rounds, it's $100,000. You win the average, it's you almost won $200,000 just in 3 rounds in the average. It's just about consistency, staying healthy, and I don't think the stage will be too big for him if he does get there because he's won so much. He's had so much success through the ranks.
Something somewhat similar in the college national finals.
Right.
It's not quite as grueling in 10 days, but they're still there for 3 or 4
nights. And he won the all-around in the bull riding.
Yeah.
He reminds me of a lot of Stetson when Stetson was young, and we knew Stetson was going to be great, or that's what we heard, and he lived up to all the hype and then some. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Stetson Wright because Stetson Wright's in a different level right now with 8 world titles. But he's an 18-year-old kid. He's full of enthusiasm, and he probably feels like he'd go 24 hours a day, and those are the kind of guys that do well at the NFR.
Yeah, so he definitely deserves some Pro Rodeo props there. Recent hot streak. Got himself inside the top 10, going to have a chance to get to Las Vegas. And we want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Las Vegas, the home of the NFR for 39 years. You can come see why Vegas is the sports and entertainment capital of the world this December when Pro Rodeo's best saddle up and ride at the NFR, and that's going to be coming before too long, and that leads us right into our short round, Tracy. The NFR race is heating up. Can you believe it? Less than 60 days remain in the 2024 Pro Rodeo season.
Yeah, it just seemed like we were crowning champions last December, and all of a sudden it's like 60 days left, and it's this mad, frantic dash for all these guys to try to, max out their rodeo count, qualify for, Puyallup and Sioux Falls, and see where it happens. And there's different ways of going about it. I mean, Puyallup and Sioux Falls is the way you want to do it if you're trying to get in. But Tough Cooper proved last year he went to like 15 rodeos in like
you don't want to do what Tough did, but it worked
in 10 days, and went from like 20th in the world to like 13th. I think he ended up getting in, or maybe it was 15th. But, I mean, he went everywhere across the U.S. to make it. And different guys do different things. They go to Maine. They go to different places. They go, Northeast and all around. And just depends on the resources you have available and what you think makes sense to you. But bids like this only come around once in a while. You think, oh, maybe next year. But next year, maybe it's like Stetson. Maybe that year you get hurt.
It's hard to get back to the NFR.
You can't go to. If it was easy to get to the NFR, guys would go all the time. So, yeah, it's just insane to me how fast things have gone this season.
Yeah, and it's crazy that we're going to be, crowning the top 15 with less than 60 days up in, once Sioux Falls wraps up and we know who the top 15 is going to be. So it's going to be exciting nonetheless. So we'll keep an eye on all that action, how it shakes out for you. Another exciting development, 2025 dates announced, Tracy, for the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. I saw you put this in the release earlier this week. It's going to be February 6th to the 23rd at the Frost Bank Center, and also they have some things going on at Freeman Coliseum as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great venue.
It is.
You and I have been there. It's where the Spurs play. And they've got great acts. I mean, Keith Urban's going to be there and different acts. But they bring out the biggest stars at San Antonio. I mean, every year. And it's like a mini NFR. And it goes on. It goes on for a long time. It pays well. They treat the Cowboys great. And I just enjoyed the atmosphere just from my own personal experiences. It's just a cool venue. It's a cool place to go.
A lot of money handed out. Tracy mentioned some of the acts that are going to be there in 2025. Keith Urban, Zach Top, one of the young guns of country music, going to be there. Diamond Rio. A little bit for everybody to sit down and enjoy. And it's crazy we're already talking about winter 2025 rodeos.
Yeah, February rodeos. I mean, haven't got to December yet. And after December, everybody wants to, like, recharge a little bit because the NFR is so crazy.
Like, here's Denver.
Here's Denver, middle of January. Yeah. I tell people this is the only sport that I know of, professional sport, that has truly no off season. I mean, maybe a month after the NFR, give or take about a month. And after that, it's here's Odessa, here's Denver, and here we go.
No
doubt. It's like Groundhog Day, but in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for it to happen, and look forward to seeing what the 2025 season happens after we crown champs. And that's going to lead us into a guy that's trying to get back to the NFR. He's got a little bit of an uphill climb. Our 8-question segment coming up with 2022 NFR bull running qualifier JR Stratford, and he's just battled so many injuries in his career. But we're going to sit down with him and ask him some of the fun questions that Pro Rodeo has to offer.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure he's eager to get back. I mean, now's the time to get back because the money's so great.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he got the experience of doing it the first time in 2022. And like you said, it's not a lack of talent. Bull riding, a lot of it comes down to just injuries.
Luck, injuries.
Yeah, I mean, and probably in that order.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this is the year he gets back.
And we're going to sit down and talk with it. Here's your 8-question segment with JR Stratford.
What's your favorite movie?
8 Seconds.
All right, what's your favorite restaurant?
Longhorn Steakhouse.
What's your favorite bull you've ridden in the PRCA?
Curly Bill from Pete Carr.
All right. What would you name a bull if you had a chance to name it yourself?
Oh, probably something like Widowmaker.
Hobby outside of rodeo. What's your favorite hobby?
I like to play golf.
Describe bull riding in one word.
Wild.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
And then last one, if you had to be in a tag team fight, who would you rather be your partner, Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Ooh, Chuck Norris.
Tracy, you can just tell JR has a lot of fun. Alex Riley was up there in Cheyenne, caught up with him. He got a lot of 8-question segments, but also you can just see JR enjoys what he does. He's got a big smile on his face and loves the sport of rodeo.
Yeah, I mean, and guys are smiling when they're winning money and they're healthy. I mean, that's the biggest key. But they get to go to these great rodeos like Cheyenne, and imagine the summers these guys have. I mean, even if you don't make the NFR, you probably go to at least 10 to 15 states. Flying, going. I mean, it's just like being a rock star. And you're a rock star if you can get to the NFR, because then you have a chance to win the real money.
Yeah, and Stratford's going to have to be one of those guys that continues to have a strong back end of the season if he wants to get back to Las Vegas. But wouldn't doubt him out. He seems like he's pretty motivated to get back to the Thomas and Mack Center. Well, that's going to do it for the first segment here on the Chute Bosses. Well, much more coming your way. We still have to sit down with Jesse Brown. We'll talk to him a little bit about how his season's going so far and how he plans to get back to Vegas. And then we'll also have your ProRodeo Hall of Fame spotlight and our viewer question. All that coming up on the Chute Bosses.
In 1936, a group of cowboys and cowgirls came together for the common good of rodeo. They accomplished a feat that sparked a fire of greatness in countless Western athletes. Today, the Western lifestyle burns on in our contestants' and fans' hearts. and souls. We aim to preserve the cowboy code and keep the Western lifestyle alive. Together as one, we are Pro Rodeo.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast, and we've got a bunch of great stuff still coming your way. We're going to sit down and talk with four-time NFR qualifier Jesse Brown, former Washington State quarterback. How many Pro Rodeo guys can you say that about?
Yeah, very few. D. Pickett actually started at Boise State.
You've got a couple of Dallas Cowboys guys that played in the NFL as
yeah,
well.
Walt Garrison won a Super Bowl. He roped a little bit of it. He's probably the only guy that won a Super Bowl and rodeoed. But, yeah, D. Pickett back in the day went to Boise State. And there's some other guys. It's just really hard to be at that level in Division I college football and rodeo and change your mind at just a bout course and say,
change your mind at 20 and say,
yeah,
hey, I'm going to become one of the best bulldoggers in the world.
And that just tells you how talented he is, because there's so many guys that grow up at the age of like 5 to that's their dream, and then he's 20 and just picks it up.
That's when you know you're a good athlete, though.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that transition and, you know, what made him into the bulldog areas today. But as we do, starting off our second segment here, Tracy, our ProRodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight, 2017 inductee Mike Beers.
Mm-hmm. And Beers was a phenomenal team roper. I believe he's went to the NFR 23 times. He won the world title with D. Pickett. I believe it was, 84?
Yeah, 84, yep.
And just he's been great for rodeo. He's had family involved with roping since he retired, and I don't know that he's technically retired. I know he still ropes a little bit. So it just tells you what you could do as a team roper when you're outstanding. You just keep that skill going. But he's one of the best ever doing it, because he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you mentioned that Beers was roping with D. Pickett. He was also inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2003. There's 23 NFR qualifications. And get this, Beers had nicknamed Mr. Consistent because he hosted that roping school, you know, during the winter months and the spring months. And then I think it was in 1993 he became just the 11th cowboy to pass that $1 million mark, which, you know, that's still a pretty, you know, the money's obviously going up, but that's still a pretty prestigious club. And to be the 11th person ever to do it, you know, Beers was doing something right. And he's got a sweet last name.
Yeah. And 93, I mean, look how much that money meant then. I mean, obviously it's relative to the money. It's not relative to the money now, but I mean, winning $1 million by 1993 in your rodeo career, you are doing something right.
Yeah, so we definitely shine a bright light there on Mike Beers and his pro rodeo career, the 23 NFR qualifications, you know, one of the best all time in team roping as well. Just a couple people have ever gone over 20, so he's definitely a historic guy. And we won't have an historic NFR moment of the week this week, Tracy, but one thing I do want to talk about is, you know, I was just going back looking through archives the other day, and you know, I don't think anything more historic to me popped out than Cody All injuring his knee during that crazy run.
Yeah.
To find a way to stay in the hunt for a gold buckle. You know, that's one of those moments I just typed in, you know, historic NFR moments. And that Cody Ole run was everywhere. You know, so many people remembered that.
2001, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact year. I believe it's one.
And it was just historic. He injured his knee. I mean, and obviously didn't injure. I mean, it was truly injured. It wasn't like bruised. I mean, he tore some ligaments in his knee, and he had to stay in the average. That was the whole thing, and he did. And I mean, Cody.
The whole place was on its feet. They were like running around the arena with him as he was trying to tackle this calf.
Right, because and the time doesn't go out. I mean, there's so many factors involved, but he won the world because of it.
He did.
And he's one of the, like I've said this before, in terms of the NFR, if you just say the NFR, he's probably the best tie-down roper to ever compete at the NFR.
Maybe him and Joe Beaver, maybe?
Well, he's got 52 round wins.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's insane. That's just at the NFR. Mm-hmm. Some guys don't have that in their career, and he had it at the NFR. And, I mean, I got to see him.
One of the icons now?
Icon last year, and I got to see him up close and personal when I first started here in 13. Mm-hmm. He would have won the world. He won, 5 rounds that year.
Jeez.
And then he had a bad draw, calf, and the calf let him down, or he probably wins the world then. And he was just so fast. I mean, he and Trevor had a lot of the same tendencies of how good they were, but you could ask any roper, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, he would have to be probably at the very least in the top 3 tie-down ropers at the NFR, especially in Vegas.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So that's your historic NFR moment of the week. Just Tracy and I chatting about it this week. Let's go into our viewer question, Tracy. This one comes from Josh on Facebook. They want to know, how does the Cinch Playoffs in Puyallup and the Cinch Playoffs Governor's Cup work? You know, this is something that's fairly new to rodeo, or at least, you know, we used to have a season culminating event, but this is where, you know, they can go from one to an even bigger event. You know, they obviously started the Cinch Playoffs in Puyallup at the Washington State Fair and Rodeo. I think it's the top 24 contestants there. if I'm not right. And if they win from there, the top 4 go on to the Governor's Cup in Sioux Falls. And then we take the next 8? Is that right, in the playoff
series standings?
Okay.
Those being the season standings based on all
culmination.
Yeah, all the rodeos they go to, the 60-plus rodeos they go throughout the season. And then obviously at Sioux Falls, it's a $1.3 million rodeo.
$25,000-$30,000 if you go in there and take care of business.
Jesse Brown won over 20 last year. Yeah. Mason Clements won $28,000. He was the high money to squeeze in and go from like 20th to 12th in the world. And I mean, it's the last day of the season essentially. I mean, it's the 26th.
It was pretty damn cold last year, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 26th through the 28th, but the season ends the 30th. No one's having a rodeo on a Tuesday or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, and everything comes to fruition that day. I mean, a lot of guys probably are going to get in anyway, but there was probably 4 or 5 contestants last year that got in directly because of that.
Well, and you were wondering about guys, can they win money this last day to secure their spot? Is somebody going to steal their spot? Will this guy who's 20th come in and jump into the top 15? And we were just talking about it. Just last year, it was electric, man. That last day, we were all like, "Oh, let's go." This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they love it up there in South Dakota. I mean, the atmosphere
drew some pretty good crowds. I know they're probably hoping for more crowds as this event continues to grow.
That Premier Center is top notch. It's one of the best venues we go to. I mean, fits a great crowd, and I mean, I think we've never, since I'd been here before last year, had that season-ending event that would pay that much money.
They could flip it on its head.
Right. We had great season-ending events, but they were like $15,000 events if a guy ran the table. Now it's almost 30, so it's totally different. It probably will be 30 for someone this year because last year it paid $1.2 million. This year it's 1.3. So I mean, I think it's a great event. It's great for rodeo, and it really builds the momentum for the NFR.
Yeah, it gets everyone pumped up. It's like an NFR preview almost. Yeah. For some of these guys checking it out. And we're gonna get ready to go up to Buck's Word of the Day, but you got
the CB Nation. It is true. When I was 17, I did try out for a boy band. They were called Out of Sync. And so was I.
You never got in sync?
No, I don't know what happened. I couldn't hit the high notes.
Can I get you to do a little test for us here real quick?
I tried Achy Breaky Heart. I can't sing.
I don't think you tried it. Wait. Somebody else tried it?
Things that you guess and things that you know.
That's about enough. And one guy that's never going to be as good a singer as that's Buck, Tracy. And he had his...
Buck's worse than me.
Yeah, he had his Nacho Libre mask on a couple of weeks ago. And
Billy Ray Cyrus.
I think. Was that last week he brought out his guitar?
The little guitar, just scratching out the dust off that guitar. I don't know when that thing was played. It's been years.
Yeah, I got to tell Kent Sturman to get that guy out of the Hall of Fame. Let's go to Buck. He's got your Pro Rodeo Word of the Day.
I'm Buck, official correspondent of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of the PRCA. My word for the day is knockout, as in contestants are trying to knock out each other to get in that coveted number 15 spot for the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo in December. When it comes to Buck and the word knockout, seems like I'm always getting caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Buck, you messed with the wrong cowboy.
Ugh.
Farm life means always hoping for the best, but planning for uncertainty. You have to be ready for the next everything. The next dawn, the next season, the next harvest, the next technology, the next challenge, and the next generation. No matter what comes your way, we can help keep you ready for the next.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Tenor Bar, Tracy Rink. Tracy, we mentioned it off the top of the show. We're getting ready to sit down with the man, the myth, the legend, downtown Jesse Brown joining us here on the Chute Bosses.
Yeah, Jesse's done a lot of social media things for us in the past and different things with Final Four and NFL Super Bowl predictions. So it's about time he gets to come on the show and does his own interview.
Jesse, we can't thank you enough, man, for jumping on here and chatting with us. We know that obviously people think July's the biggest month, but, August is just as busy in Pro Rodeo, so we appreciate you taking a couple minutes for us.
Dang right. Happy to be on the show, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, first thing I got to ask you, Jesse, is, this has been a little bit of a strange season for you. I was just reading an article that one of our reporters wrote on you about your win recently, and you said, you've won one rodeo headed into this past weekend. You get another big win this past weekend. Take me through what 2024 has been like for you.
Yeah, it's been different than the past few years. I've been pretty lucky the past few years. I've kind of knew that I was in at a certain point. And that's a good feeling, but this year it's kind of kind of been on the bubble or here recently. And before that, I wasn't even near the bubble. So, to be honest, I'm happy to be where I'm at right now. And each run's kind of a little more pressure on each run, but it makes it fun. And, each season's different. You can't just be a lock for the NFR by this time every year. So just got to take what they give you and scratch and claw to get in there.
The biggest thing with you, and I'm speaking obvious here, are you still using Tyson? What's the horsepower been like this for you this year?
Yeah, I've been riding my horse Glinda a decent amount, and Tyson, he's been up in Canada. Tyson was in down here for the winter rodeos,
right?
And then he went up Canada for a little bit, but Curtis just sent him down with us this past week.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyson had a pretty good week. He won, I think, second at Jerome, won Logan, first and second at Logan, won OMAC, placed in Hermiston. So it was a good first week for Tyson down here.
So he brought down the ATM machine for you guys, right? When you guys see Tyson, that's got to be easy on the eyes, right? Like they brought the ATM machine here.
It's nice, yeah. And then Curtis he's making some money off that too, off mount money. So it's good for both sides.
You know what's funny, Jesse, is you almost talk like when you're talking about Tyson, it almost seemed like you were talking about a traveling partner. You're like Tyson found a way to get the win, finish second here. That just shows how important that these horses are to you guys and what you do. I mean, it really is like another buddy going down the road.
Yeah, he has been my traveling partner for the last 4 years. Honestly, since I've been going with Curtis, and I've probably gone with Tyson more than Curtis just because Curtis got hurt a little last year, and then this year he's kind of staying up in Canada. So, no, you're exactly right. He's another one of the boys, and you're always glad to be traveling with him. And something that Tyson's kind of known for at rodeos is Kurt. He doesn't tie him up, so he'll just be roaming around, and he loves the Hayes horse, so he'll kind of stay in the vicinity, but sometimes he'll go off a little bit, and it scares me a little, especially when Kurt's not with us, because that's on me. But a lot of time the trailer next to us will go get him and bring him to us, not knowing that that's just what he does.
You're just a roamer, huh?
It's like the random puppy that just roams around the fairgrounds like, hey, that's the star horse, and Tyson's just looking around at trailers hanging out.
Yeah, he'll just get whatever grass he can, and I just hope sometimes he doesn't get into other people's hay and stuff. But yeah, he does his own deal. So awesome. That's been Curtis's thing for him for a while.
That's awesome.
Well, so as you get ready for this 60 days, as the season winds down, is the mindset just, and I know it's cliche, just one rodeo at a time, one run at a time, and try to get to Puyallup and then Sioux Falls? I mean, obviously you had a huge Sioux Falls last year, and you know how much that can help you towards the end of the season. Yeah,
no, it is really cliche, but it's just one run at a time, and then getting as much money out of each one as you can. And it's if you draw a little stronger one, and hopefully it's a 2-header and you have a chance to win something in the average. And if it's a 1-header, you go at them and try and get that last hole or whatever it is. So, the only thing you are kind of looking ahead as far as, like you said, trying to get qualified for Sioux Falls with those tour rodeos. They mean a lot. And then, I'm not even 100% necessarily qualified for Puyallup too. So I got to get into that as well. And, it's just taking advantage of every run I got.
How much of those two rodeos, really since ProRodeo kind of brought that in where you have Puyallup and then maybe going to Sioux Falls, how much has that kind of changed the game for some guys? Because, last year, a guy like Mason Clemens in the bareback riding goes from 21st inside the top 15. Tough Cooper doesn't qualify but has to chase around 15 other rodeos around the country to try and make it. How much has that changed the game for some of you contestants and how you kind of, think about that last week or so of the season?
Yeah, it's huge. And, there's maybe some of these other bigger rodeos. All of us are going to all the big rodeos anyway, but there's a few that are maybe out of your path that you might go to because they're a playoff rodeo, and to try and get into that top 8, especially for Sioux Falls. But I'm not only that, the top 24 for Puyallup, because even if a guy is out of it a ways, like you said, you can make a big splash at the end and climb a lot of spots. So, it's truly probably not over till that very last day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So obviously growing up, you were an outstanding football player. You went to Washington State. What did you have visions of, I mean, I know the NFL kids dream about that growing up, but why did it switch to rodeo? I mean, you were such a great football player as a quarterback.
It didn't, I mean, yeah, I loved football, still do. And, you know, like you said, it wasn't panning out the way I thought it was. And, it wasn't always going to be rodeo, but maybe it should have been. It was kind of always there, through my family, and I had a lot of ties. And, so I don't know. I think rodeo, it was always meant to be that way. And I'm glad it happened the way it happened. I'm glad I ended up here, but I don't know why, but it ended up being the greatest job I could ever ask for.
You got any crazy stories out of Washington State, Jesse? Anything we could share here on the pod, I guess, in your football time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I'd say just that whole transition from when Mike Leach got there. There's a bunch of stories within that. So, I mean, nothing that nobody hasn't heard of, I guess, as far as like they called it like the Leach Beach or whatever, but by the practice field, they made like a sand pit basically and just a beach. And, you know, we weren't winning very much when he got there, and he was basically just trying to weed out the weak and kind of get his recruits there too, and was planning on winning the next couple of years anyway, I think. So when we lose, we'd kind of get punished. And yeah, I remember a day when we had to go all in there. I don't know if it was in the morning, but anyway, you get in the beach and everyone lines up and you just had to roll as the punishment. So you just roll in the sand and roll back. And yeah, when you do that, you get real sick. So I just remember rolling in that thing and puking and kind of getting out of the way. And then the next guy was doing it. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that. So it definitely pushed you mentally and physically, which I don't really know the physical part of the rolling and puking, but we did do that.
So did it make you a better steer wrestler?
I mean, I don't know. It got me used to the dirt, I guess, if anything. But no, I think about the only thing it made for a good story. You know, another one I remember we had the early morning workouts and I was sick. I got sick, so I was worried I wasn't going to sleep. And I took NyQuil, and I never was late for anything as far as football, or I try not to be late for anything as it is. But I showed up. Yeah, my alarm goes off and the NyQuil kicked in, whatever it was, and I go running into that workout and just thinking this is not gonna be good. And yeah, blow the whistle. Everyone's got to know I'm late. And then yeah, so I had to do 500 up downs in an hour, and then I got 50 extra for another guy that was late. And plus I was sick and half on NyQuil still. And I remember my legs were just shaking so much because it was off their whistle. You know, every time you'd whistle, you go down and up, and I'd have to be switching legs. And it was a miserable. I think I did it in an hour. I had to do it before my class got done, or I had another 500 after practice or something, whatever it was.
So in that quarterback room, did you mess with Gardner Minshew at all? Was he part of that, or was he after you?
He was after. I think probably I would assume similar age, but he was he transferred after I'd left.
He has some like rodeo tide living in that van for a while. He probably has some interesting stuff. He had a great thing, great rodeo.
I bet that guy would actually really like rodeo, to be honest with you. He seems like a cool guy, and yeah, he was a Coug, so I liked rooting for him. And now he's playing. I like the Raiders too, so he's on the Raiders, and so that's a cool connection. I'd like to meet that guy. And I really do. I think he'd be a rodeo fan.
Tanner loves the Raiders. Raiders are his favorite team.
No, I'm a Broncos fan, Jesse. Don't let Tracy lie to you.
The Broncos, not that yeah.
That ain't great, Jesse. You don't have to lie to me about it.
Who's gonna play quarterback for him?
Hey, we're going with Bo Nix, man, the Oregon product.
Oregon, all right, fair enough. But I bet he doesn't start first game. I don't know.
I'd be willing to put a little money on it. What I really want to know is how's the old Jesse Brown cannon? You still got it? You got 30, 40 yards in you still?
I got 30, 40 yards for sure, but it's probably not the same. I don't know. It's a classic, like, guy that's used to do it. I had shoulder surgery, and I wish I did, but no, I don't got the arm I probably used to, but I mean, I could still throw it a little bit.
So you're gonna end up like Uncle Rico one day and say you could throw that ball over the mountain?
No, I won't be telling wise tales. I was never that good, so no, that won't be me.
I love it.
I hope I can throw it though. I like when I finally have kids and stuff. I hope I'm able to throw it. I hope my shoulder is completely toast.
For you, Jesse, kind of get back to rodeo just a little bit. How do you think you got to this point in your career, man? You mentioned maybe it helped having Tyson underneath you for the last couple of years, but how do you think you really took that next step as a bulldogger to be one of the best? Fighting for world titles.
I think I got pretty lucky with the help I've had thus far. I've had really good coaches and good buddies to push myself. And then, really, honestly, my mom and dad have helped a bunch. My dad, he's opened the chute for me here at the house a million times. And, I think just wanting to be at this point, and this is exactly where I kind of wanted to be, is every year chasing for a world title and making the NFR. And so just a lot of runs, a lot of hard work, and just being in the practice pen as much as I can, and being in the weight room and putting myself in the right situations with horses and traveling partners. So, just a big combination, but I've had a ton of help to get to this point, and just pretty lucky to be kind of living the dream of where I thought once I quit football and started this is where I wanted to be. And so, yeah, just pretty lucky.
It's awesome, man.
What's that like? I know we always talk about getting to Vegas, and I know that's the big payday and that's where you guys want to go, but what's it like when that round one, Viva Las Vegas, like your first time you went there, and just the crowd, was it everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, yes, it was, especially because my first time at the NFR was in Texas. So then when it actually went to Las Vegas, it was a night and day difference. So that was, it was awesome. And I'm a little different than some guys. Like, some guys grew up watching the NFR, and like, since they're a little kid, like, that's what they want to do. But mine was a little different. Like, I was probably 21 or 20, whatever it was, but once I got into the game, that's what I wanted. And so, the Thomas and Mack, and like the pressure behind it, and the energy and the money, and it was awesome that first round. And not bashing on Texas either, because that was COVID, but that was still cool. But Las Vegas was different.
So did you grow up in rodeo at all, Jesse, or were you not rodeoing until you went to Montana State?
Yeah, I didn't rodeo. I rodeoed for a year. I tried to, at least in college there at Washington State, just solo. Wow. And that that wasn't going to work out. And I kind of knew it. So I was trying to, just not enough resources there and anything like that. So, I started at Washington State.
Why steer wrestling? I know you have the build, and, some guys are huge, big guys. Some guys are smaller, but fundamentally, you got to be real sound to be at the level you're at. Why steer wrestling? Was that just something you felt fit your mentality?
I think that. And people kind of told me that would probably fit best. And then the Knowleses were from Oregon too, and they're steer wrestlers. And it was just kind of what was supposed to happen, I think. I think just steer wrestling was supposed to be the deal the whole time.
So when Jesse Brown wins $8 million at the 2030 NFR, you going to start that Washington State rodeo program?
I don't know. Have they announced what this thing's paying yet, or what?
Yeah, it's $12.5 million this year. 12.5 to the contestants.
So what's that in rounds?
33 to the round winners, 88 in the average.
88 in the average. That's this year?
Yes, that's this year. It goes up.
Million every year.
Million every year through 2035, but this year it's 12.5, 33, and 88.
So what will that be the final year?
I can't remember, Jesse. I think it was like $25 million that last year, the contract, something like that. I don't know what it would pay out per round or average, but you're talking probably $50,000 a round, if I had to guess, somewhere in there.
Right.
That's awesome. Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, that'll be at the end of my deal. Too bad it's not right now, but that's cool. I think we had pretty good leverage there on Vegas for that. Who knows? It probably could have paid $100,000 a round right now, and they'd still make millions and millions. But I don't know. Hopefully the Cowboys continue to making more money as I think they should in pro rodeo. So
no doubt.
Well, you guys will definitely have to stay in the average. That's the big thing to win the world. There's so much money within the average, because the last night, if you could conceivably win like $130,000 if you won the round in the average. That's
I think that's great. Is. Yeah, I've heard people talk about how the 10th round should be a a one header for the world. And I just think that's the most silly thing ever.
No.
That's not rodeo at all. So yeah, the average is important, and it's hard to be 3 one time or 4. I mean, but to do it 10 times in a row and be consistent at that with all the pressure and the different amount of steers. And it really shows the true winner, because it evens the draw out in 10 rounds. And it just, like, competitively, it's how it should be. And I love that. So yeah, when you can run it the round for that much money and then the average on top of that, it's great. It's great for the sport.
No doubt, man. Well, Jesse, we can't thank you enough, man. We know you're busy, but it's been great having you on here. Good to catch up with you, get some crazy stories in, and hopefully we'll see you here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and before we let you go, who's the Super Bowl prediction? You going to do the Sports Center thing for us, the Super Bowl prediction?
Yeah, I'm sure me and Dalton will be doing that. We can't give out any too much teasers because you have to tune in. And, yeah, I don't know if how many people watch it, but it's a good one. Cowboy Sports Center. Check it out. Dalton and I, and then we might bring on another guest.
So you're not going to spill the tea on who you think's winning this year yet?
No. You have to tune in.
I guarantee it's not going to be the Raiders. That's all I can say.
We'll see. Gardner Minshew might take them to the promised land.
There it is. Jesse, man, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
There it is, Jesse Brown, Tracy. Just an overall great dude, a great bulldogger, and a guy that is closing in on winning a world title of his own.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk kind of off script with football, but he's such a great athlete and such a good guest, and he's done so much social media stuff with us in the last few years. And, I mean, he's an extremely talented bulldog. I mean, ultimately, the only thing he's missing is the world title. And for things to go that way, a lot of things have to fall into place, but he's definitely got the talent to do it.
No doubt about it. That's going to wrap up another great episode of the Chute Bosses. We appreciate Jesse jumping on. We'll continue to bring you more great coverage as we lead into September and ultimately set the top 15 for the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. But until then, keep on rodeoing.
He's addicted to danger, ruled by passion and pride. To pain and fear he's no stranger, but his lust needs to be satisfied. Hooked on an 8-second ride.